we have one of the biggest fights in modern boxing history. Two-weight, undisputed, four-weight champion, undefeated Terence "Bud" Crawford takes on fellow four-weight champion, current undisputed, super middleweight world champion, Mexico's Canelo Álvarez. In this video, we will break down why Crawford will pull off the slight upset, make history, and defeat Canelo Álvarez. Born on September 28, 1987, in Omaha, Nebraska, Terence Crawford has been fighting his entire life. From difficult upbringings to his own mother paying kids in the neighborhood to beat him. Crawford has a decent, but not stellar, amateur career, amassing a record of 58-12. Crawford came to the pros under the radar. He got his first opportunity in January of 2013 as a late replacement against Bradis Prescott. Crawford made a splash, dominating Prescott. As time went by, we saw Crawford's biggest strengths in the ring. His ring IQ, good punch variation, respectable power, etc. Crawford was always big for his weight class, but we truly had no idea how physically big he actually was. As Crawford started to move up in weight, something interesting happened. We saw that he had more power at 140 than he did at 135, and became undisputed, winning almost all of his fights by KO in that weight class. His power looked even more impressive at 147, where he joined the weight class, won all of his fights by KO, before becoming undisputed again, and then moving up to 154. Crawford then defeated 154-pound champ Israel Madrimov in his toughest fight to date, becoming a four-weight champion. Throughout all of this, it's become very apparent that Crawford is one of the best fighters in the entire sport, trading pound-for-pound #1 spot with Alexander Usyk and Naoya Inoue for years. Now, what elements of Crawford's game has resulted in this monumental success as a fighter? Reason number one, Crawford beats Canelo. Ring IQ. While both Crawford and Canelo are some of the most advanced fighters in the entire sport, Crawford, without too much doubt, has Canelo beat in regards of ring IQ. Crawford is playing championship-level chess in the ring, always outsmarting his opponents, setting the right traps, having the right game plans, and always adjusting to whatever his opponents have brought to the table. Out of the many championship fights Crawford has had, he only lost more than 2 to 3 rounds in a very few of them. Crawford wouldn't just physically hurt the opponents that he's stopped in the past. He'd very often outclassed them as well. It was July 29th, 2023. Crawford had the biggest fight of his career, going for undisputed against undefeated, unified Errol Spence Jr. We saw Crawford only need 1 round to completely figure Spence out. Once he did, it was a one-sided domination. We saw when Crawford fought Shawn Porter, it was a difficult back-and-forth fight. It took Crawford time, but he figured Porter out and was the only man to ever stop him. Crawford took on a prime Victor Postol, a Postol who was known as a proficient technician, and outclassed and outboxed him to a very wide, unanimous decision victory, beating Postol at his own game. Now, Israel Madrimov, a genius in the ring, Crawford was able to defeat on points. It was a tricky match, but he was able to figure Madrimov out late and get the decision. Crawford was always a well-rounded fighter with many strengths, but it wasn't his power, speed, or even size that won him his fights. It was his A+ ring IQ that only a handful of boxers in the entire sport currently possess. Reason number two, career timing. It's extremely important to note that neither Crawford nor Canelo are spring chickens, with Alvarez recently turning 35 and Crawford soon turning 38. Both men are up there in boxing years, but it's apparent that even if Crawford 3 years older, not all fighters age the same. Canelo Álvarez has nearly 70 professional fights, opposed to Crawford having 41. Álvarez has had a lot more wars and has been hit with a lot more shots. And even with ignoring the direct evidence of Álvarez likely having much stronger wear and tear, it's apparent when watching both men fight that Álvarez has noticeably slipped since his defeat to Dmitry Bivol. Álvarez struggled and gassed out against an extremely out-of-prime Gennady Golovkin. He had a physically demanding fight against John Ryder. He looked poor against Edgar Berlanga, and most recently had a career-worst performance against William Skull, setting a record of such few shots they landed against each other. While Crawford had one of his more questionable performances against Israel Madrimov, it was only 2 years ago at a lower weight class where Crawford looked his absolute best, rivaling the greats in the sport of boxing when he stopped Spence. It's understandable to see Canelo Álvarez slow down, but it doesn't help that he's also taking on a fighter in Crawford who's notorious for staying in shape and staying in the gym all year round. Some of Alvarez's biggest strengths have been dampered with him slowing down. He isn't as explosive, his counters are worse, his timing, work rate, and pressure of all weekend. and worst of all, Canelo Alvarez's foot speed. Reason number 3, a perfect segue into foot speed. The final, arguably defining factor giving Crawford the advantage is foot speed. With Crawford gaining so much weight for this fight, some may question his foot speed in this bout. But it's apparent that his foot speed is Alvarez's biggest weakness in this match. The Canelo Álvarez of 2017, which was attempting to use his foot speed to outbox an older Gennady Golovkin, and it nearly worked. Now in 2025, that foot speed seems to have vanished. Alvarez was multiple feet away from Williams' skull the entire night, and things weren't changing round after round. This wasn't the first time we've seen a back foot fighter give Alvarez problems. Floyd Mayweather dominated Alvarez on the back foot. Lara outworked Canelo in the same manner. And if Crawford, a man whose foot speed was too much for fighters multiple weight classes below Alvarez, Canelo will need to be extremely prepared for this threat. Reason number 4, southpaw who can switch stances. While this reason is always a given when Terence Crawford is fighting, it will likely play an even bigger part in a fight of this magnitude. The reasons. This is a fight that will be determined through physiological and neurological warfare. Two extremely intelligent, established, and skilled fighters. Crawford not just being a southpaw, which Canelo has had some issues in the past with, but more specifically being able to seamlessly switch stances at any given moment. If you're combining this with foot speed, this makes Alvarez's life very difficult. While Crawford almost seems to exclusively fight southpaw, there's a possibility that for this fight, as challenging as this one is, he may turn things around on Alvarez and utilize his ability to switch stances much more in this bout than in the past. And reason number 5, strength. One element of a big fighter facing a smaller fighter, such as Crawford and Canelo, is always the difference in strength. It's much harder for the weaker man, which is almost always the smaller man, to hang with the bigger, stronger man. But this fight may very well be an exception to that rule. Terence Crawford grew up a wrestler, and throughout his career has been known to be an extremely physically strong fighter. There were even talks of Crawford fighting Conor McGregor in the cage back in 2020, and it was viewed as a realistic scenario, as Crawford could hold his own on the ground and in the clinch. While Alvarez has the power to change the fight against Crawford, the physicality of the two men is something Crawford will likely not have too much to worry about. The combination of Crawford's ring IQ, Canelo slowing down, Crawford's foot speed, Crawford being able to switch stances, and Crawford being extremely physically strong for his size, may very well be the perfect storm, and may very well be enough for Terence Crawford to make history, become pound for pound number 1, a 5-weight champion, and a 3-weight undisputed champion. So how does Crawford actually win the fight? Let's break this fight down quickly. The first few rounds are slow. Neither man is a fast starter. Crawford needs to be careful. Canelo has the power to hurt him. This is a fact. The fight is pretty close after 4, but after that, Crawford starts to outwork Canelo. He's mixing it up. He's coming forward in spurts, but also escaping before Canelo can make anything happen. Crawford is using his superior ring IQ, foot speed, and even his superior cardio. By the end of round 9, Crawford is up anywhere from 6 rounds to 3 to 7 rounds to 2. Crawford relishes the scorecard lead and plays the final 4 rounds safe. Canelo has more success, but it's too little, too late. Terence Crawford is given the decision victory. This is one of the highest skilled fights the sport has ever seen. There's many ways this fight can play out, and it's a true testament to the careers and legacies of both Terence Crawford and Canelo Álvarez. This fight is high stakes with lots on the line between two fighters who are looking to continue to solidify their legacies. On September 13th, the sport of boxing will have a very historic clash.